And in that moment, the frightened young woman no longer felt as alone as she once had. The night stretched on, but the patient no longer felt the crushing weight of its silence. The nurse's words lingered in her mind like a gentle melody, each note softening the sharp edges of her fear. She repeated them quietly to herself, as if they were a prayer she had been waiting to hear all along. It was strange how her body still ached, how the pain had not vanished, and yet something inside her had begun to ease. She realized that healing was not always about erasing pain, but about finding the strength to live with it. The nurse had given her more than reassurance. She had given her courage. The kind words had stitched together something fragile inside her that no medicine could touch. As dawn's pale light slipped through the blinds, she felt a quiet strength she had not known before. Her fear had not disappeared, but it no longer owned her. She could breathe more deeply now, her chest no longer tight with panic. The hospital room was still the same. The machines still hummed, but she herself was different. She had been reminded that she was more than her illness, more than her weakness. She was a soul capable of carrying hope. Later that morning, when the nurse returned, the young woman greeted her not with trembling silence, but with a small smile. It was faint, but it held a light that had not been there before. The nurse returned a smile, as though she knew that something deeper had shifted, something that went beyond charts and test results. The patient now understood that medicine may heal the body, but kindness heals the heart. Both are needed, but one without the other leaves a person incomplete. She promised herself that if she ever found someone lost in fear the way she had been, she too would offer them words of kindness, for she now carried proof within her that kind words can heal wounds that medicine cannot. The memory of that night stayed with her long after she left the hospital, shaping her into someone who would never underestimate the quiet power of compassion. And in the stillness of her heart, she carried the truth that healing is not only a matter of science, but also of love. There are moments in life when we realize the most powerful remedies are not found in bottles or syringes, but in the human voice when it speaks with kindness. A gentle word can soothe storms that medicine cannot reach, reminding us that we are not alone in our pain. Perhaps this is the greatest gift we can give one another, the courage to face hardship with hope. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs comfort today. Like, comment, and subscribe to join us for more heartfelt stories on the tales we share. It wasn't a grand revelation or a sudden leap. It was a quiet stirring, a spark of guidance that reminded her she still had something to give. She walked home that evening with flowers still clinging to her clothes, but her heart lighter than it had been in a long time. The idea of opening her own bakery seemed impossible at first, like trying to build a bridge out of paper. Still, the memory of those smiling faces at the community bake sale lingered in her heart, and the warmth of that day carried her through the fear. With trembling hands, she began sketching plans in a notebook, jotting down recipes, names, and even a rough budget. It was a fragile dream, but it was hers. The road was not smooth. Her savings were thin, and the thought of investing them into ovens and flour felt reckless. Some friends cautioned her, saying it was too risky, that she should keep applying for safe jobs instead. Their voices echoed her own doubts, amplifying the fear that she was chasing something foolish. But Mrs. Green's quiet encouragement stood against the noise. She reminded her that success isn't always found on the straight path, and sometimes it is born from courage in the crooked places. She started small, baking in her apartment kitchen, selling loaves and pastries to neighbors and at the local farmers market. The nights were long, often stretching until dawn, and her hands ached from kneading. Yet, unlike the endless office work she once endured, this exhaustion carried joy. It was the kind that came from creating, from pouring her soul into something real. Little by little, word spread. People came not just for the bread, but for the care they could taste in every bite. Her kitchen became too small to hold the demand, and with trembling determination, she signed the lease on a tiny corner shop, standing in the empty space, with bare walls and echoes of possibility. She felt both terrified and alive. The first day her bakery opened, the shelves were filled with warm bread, golden croissants, and sweet rolls that carried the scent of comfort out into the street. She watched as people gathered, as children pointed excitedly at pastries, as strangers sat by the window and smiled with each bite. In that moment, she realized the truth. Losing her job had not ended her life. It had opened the door to the one she was meant to live. She no longer carried the weight of failure. Instead, she carried the quiet strength of someone who had faced the ashes of despair and found the courage to build something beautiful from them. Her bakery wasn't just a business, it was proof that every challenge hides an opportunity, waiting to be discovered by those willing to see beyond the loss. Life often disguises its greatest gifts in the wrapping of hardship. What looks like loss may in truth be the soil from which new beginnings grow. Her journey reminds us that courage does not always roar, it sometimes begins as a whisper, guiding us to take one small step toward the unknown. And when we dare to follow, we often find that failure was never the end, but the beginning of something greater. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs hope today, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories of resilience and renewal.